Air defense inadequacies seen from the Russia-Ukraine, Israel-Iran conflict, PLO. The world's air defense system is lacking and it doesn't take money to make air defense effective. Missile and air raids. Although Iran's drone, UAV, was aimed at Israel, it was stopped by Israel, but this is also a warning bell about the lack of an air defense system against such combined attacks, according to the Wall Street Journal. The difficult situation of air defense. In recent years, countries around the world have moved to strengthen their air defenses due to concerns about Russia's war with Ukraine, tensions in the Asia-Pacific region and recent conflicts in the Middle East. However, companies that produce air defense systems are struggling to meet growing demand, and countries ordering the technology are tired of long waits and struggling with high costs. Air defense systems and accompanying missiles often take a long time to build and cost much more than the targets they are aimed at, especially in the case of firing. Iran's attack on Israel today, April 13, was notable in terms of scale when Iran fired more than 120 ballistic missiles, more than 30 cruise missiles and about 170 UAVs. Senior U.S. officials said Israel intercepted most ballistic missiles with the Arrow air defense system. About 4 to 6 missiles were shot down by U.S. destroyers and 1 missile was intercepted by the U.S. Patriot air defense system. U.S. warplanes shot down most of the UAVs, while others were destroyed by British, French, and Israeli aircraft. Israel was able to prevent Iran's attack thanks to the country's complex and multi-layered air defense system and the support of the U.S. as well as Western and Arab partners. However, defense analysts say Israel could face difficulties if it faces multiple waves of attacks, as Ukraine has experienced during more than 2 years of war with Russia. Mr. Tom Carrico, director of the Missile Defense Project at the US-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, said, Israel seems to be doing quite well, but the downside is that it has used a large number of missiles interceptor fire. Certainly the lack of interceptors will be a problem. Over the past few years, Ukraine has largely relied on equipment provided by the West to intercept more than 2,000 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and other types of missiles, as well as about 5,500 Iranian-made shot UAVs. However, Kiev's interception rate has decreased due to running out of missiles. For this reason, Ukraine has recently continuously suffered great casualties and damage, and Ukrainian leaders have increasingly urgently asked the West for air defense aid. However, the West no longer has large numbers missiles and air defense systems to supply Ukraine. For the U.S., there is currently a long list of countries placing orders waiting for delivery of the Patriot air defense system. These systems are also not cheap. Each Patriot battery, which can be equipped with 32 missiles, costs about $1 billion. For example, Switzerland has ordered 5 Patriot batteries by 2022, but it will take 6 years for the first system to be delivered and another year before it becomes operational. According to Mr. Yehoshua Kaliski, a researcher at the Institute for National Security Studies based in Israel, the cost for Israel to stop about half of Iran's missiles and UAVs during the attack is estimated at $550 million. Western officials worry that costs will increase when they have to shoot down cheap UAVs with missiles worth millions of dollars, and that costs will increase if opponents use a series of UAVs. Russia has adopted this strategy, firing long-range UAVs into Ukrainian cities so that Ukraine can fight back with its already meager anti-aircraft missiles. Ukrainian officers complain that they lack the equipment to prevent continuous UAV attacks on the front lines. Solution to counter the wave of UAVs. Pentagon officials say they want to significantly increase production of anti-UAV defense systems, while acknowledging that firing missiles worth millions of dollars to take down UAVs costing just a few $1,000s would not be sustainable. Solid, according to the Wall Street Journal. In addition, small UAVs, which play a large role on the Ukrainian battlefield, pose special challenges for traditional defense systems because they are very difficult to detect. The U.S. sent Ukraine 3 Patriot air defense systems, but Ukraine said it needed 25 systems to have enough defense. Military and military industry officials say there is still no good technical solution to counter swarms of cheap UAVs. U.S. forces have long relied heavily on ship-based Aegis missile defense systems to protect their ships and commercial vessels in the Red Sea, as well as close combat artillery systems equipped with phalanx machine guns to shoot down UAVs. The U.S. and Israel are currently testing microwave and laser anti-UAV systems developed by private companies, which can fire continuously as long as they have power. In theory, this would allow the system to take down a wave of UAVs without running out of ammunition. Epirus, The American startup specializing in high-power microwave weapons, says it has some of the company's systems could be put into use in the Middle East this summer and 10 by the end of the year if the U.S. Army allows it. Raytheon, one of America's largest defense companies, has a government military contract for a high-power microwave counter-UAV system, with the first prototypes expected to be delivered next year. While these new systems have not been tested on the battlefield and have limited range, advocates of the technology say they offer the best defense against waves of UAVs.